Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Wardrobe provided by Bahari Bahamas. Visit shopbahari.com. Good morning, Bahamas, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and of course, it's always a pleasure to be in your company. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Before we dive into the show, I just want to say kudos to our very own Shanae Miller-Weibo for making the finals of the Women's 200. I know everybody in the Bahamas was up this morning watching that race, and obviously it wasn't her best showing. But I heard the audio of an interview that she did after the race with, it sounded like Marcellus Hall. And one of the things that she said was that, she was coming around the bend, she felt her hamstring, and she decided to pull back a bit. She has the 400 coming up, and she decided that she would pull back a bit, get treatment, and hopefully whatever that was she felt will be dealt with by the time the 400 semis comes around. So, I know Bahamian people, y'all could be special sometimes, because I understand that people started making some very unkind comments on Facebook after her 8th place showing. And we really got to be careful as a people how we respond. It's just so juvenile and immature. As long as you win in, yeah, Shanae, and then as soon as something goes wrong, you want to attack. That's just very immature, people. And I don't know if y'all know what it takes to get to the Olympics, much less make a final. And the fact that this woman made the final, and she's representing the country, man. Come on, let's support our people. Let's support our own. And so I know she's not hearing me, but, in case somebody listening and get a word to her, I just want you to know, Shanae, that we love you. We appreciate you. And let's go get that goal in that 400. Just, give it your best. And we hope and pray, and we'll be lifting you up in prayer that everything is fine with you physically. Because, she did say she felt a hamstring and she decided, you know what, let me pull up. So let's support our athletes, please, as they represent the country on the international stage. Okay, so that being said, we have that out of the way. I want to dive into today's show, and I'm expecting 2 guests. I only see one of them on the line so far, and I'm hoping my second guest comes in soon. But what I will do is I will go to a clipping first. And hopefully by the time we're done with the clipping, then our second guest will be here. And at that time, I'll introduce both of my guests. But you all would have heard the story about some contaminated wood making its way to Grand Bahama. And then an official statement was put out with regard to it from the authorities saying, no government authority had any knowledge of this. And there is a full investigation going on. So let's go to the clip that speaks to what went down, and then I will go ahead and introduce my guests.
The vessel reportedly did not honestly declare its cargo, and according to the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Michael Pintard, a private company was contracted to destroy the wood to avoid a potential infestation on that island. Now, the vessel was not allowed to dock in New Orleans and left for the Bahamas on July 21st. It had on board invasive wood-boring beetles that can feed on a wide variety of trees. Officials said that if the wood had been offloaded in the U.S. and placed on its landfill, it would have caused significant damage. Appearing on Beyond the Headlines with Clint Watson last night, Pintard said an investigation has been launched.
And so tonight, we have a massive team that is incinerating the wood at sanitation, fumigating both at Bradford Marine and of course at sanitation. And we are carefully trying to find out how is it possible that a vessel can come into the Bahamas, dock, drop off the items. I'm not God, so I'm not omniscient, so I don't know. And that's why we do investigation.
Right.
And to find out how they can drop off the wood, leave, because we intended to detain whoever had done it. And we will find out from the shipping agency, the barge that transfer, and everybody who had chain of custody of the wood, what the situation is. So we are addressing it.
Second guest, Eric Carey, has advised that he had to take another call, but he will get on the show as soon as that call is done. So for now, it's going to be my first guest tonight, Joe Darville, who is a well-known advocate for the environment. And immediately when I heard about this, I thought, let me reach out to Joe. Actually, I think, Joe, you sent me some information, and I said, let's do a show on this, because by the time you had sent me that information, I had heard about, we'd all had heard about, the fact that this contaminated wood had been dumped in the Bahamas after being rejected in the United States. So, yeah, I'm calling this show today the dumping ground, because it seems that that's what we are. We're the dumping ground. How is it that that contaminated wood gained entry in the Bahamas? That's what we're talking about today. And so my first guest on the line is Joseph Darville. Joe, welcome to GPS.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Very happy to be on with you again.
Is this your first time on GPS and this station?
No, I've been on with you before.
On this particular station?
Yeah, this particular one as well.
Okay. Well,
the
welcome
previous
back.
one and also this one.
Okay, great. Welcome back to the show. So, Joe, why is the Bahamas the dumping ground of the world? Why we got the cruise ships, they like to come here and dump their waste in our waters. Now we got people coming here after the U.S. tell them, no, sir, you ain't coming in here. I could see them on the boat now. You know what? Let's go to the Bahamas. That's the dumping ground.
Hey, God.
What's going on? Why are we the dumping ground?
Michelle, let's look at this from the beginning. I am famous and infamous all over the planet. And I have friends in the United States, and they know what I do, my fight for the environment, irrespective of the fact that my life has been threatened many times. And a friend of mine out of the United States actually forwarded that message to me. That's how it got in the Bahamas. There was no knowledge of it before I received it, and I released it immediately.
When you say that message, you mean the message that the ship was on the way to the Bahamas?
Now, the ship was on the way to the Bahamas, and it had a contaminated shipment of wood that contained something like 6 different types of beetles that were detrimental to wood, environment, pine forests, farms, etc. Anything that grows out of the ground, these particular beetles can destroy it over a very short period of time. So what I did when I received it, I became extremely concerned, because when I got it, I thought the ship was still on the way to Grand Bahama.
Right.
So I started to spread it out all over the place, including the Minister of the Environment, the Minister of Agriculture, and so forth, and specifically to Lou Carroll at the Sanitation Services. Now, Lou is someone that I have an incredible respect for. So Lou, as soon as he received it, he got back in touch with me and he said, Joe, that stuff is already here on Grand Bahama. He said, I have a pile of it at the sanitation services, and fortunately, I did not put it into the landfill. I have it separated in a pile, and there's a whole lot more from where it came. And I have been requested to remove it all to bring it to the sanitation services. So he said, as soon as I got your particular message, I went there and I sprayed it in case, in order to prevent anything from crawling out, because these things are embedded in the wood. They can eat wood like a chip bump, like a what they call in the river when those things can cut down the whole tree. This type of beetle can do that. And so when he sent that, and then he said, oh my God, I don't know what to do, because I was never told that it did not have permission to get on the island. And so he, by that time, he had spread out the information to the various departments, including to the original company that cleared the ship to come in. Now, let me put this in context. And because I have spoken directly to the operator, to the manager, the owner of LNet, the original ship clearance agency, he spoke to me after this whole shenanigans went down. He said that he had nothing to do with this, that when the ship came, he cleared the ship to come in because the ship had indicated that it had coming in to simply receive fuel. He knew nothing about offloading anything onto Grand Bahama. And so he was completely devastated when he found out. Now, this is according to him, and, you know, I take his word. I'm not going to second guess him. And he had, what do you call it, farmed this out to another company to actually deal with the oil, the refueling of the ship. And was in that particular process, apparently, that this subcontractor actually allowed this stuff to come off the ship without any permission, environmental department, no inspection, nothing whatsoever, according to what Mr. Pintard has said. Because, you know, I was directly in touch with him, and he indicated to me that immediately there is investigation going on and that we will get to the bottom of this. So whatever the subcontractor is or was, I have not been in touch with them. I've been in touch with Mr. Hepburn from LNet Shipping, the agency that cleared it to come in. So in other words, the ship was here already when I received this information from my friend in Florida. Unfortunately, we got it in time to know exactly how to handle this material. And so immediately, Lou Carroll had set it afire, put it in a furnace. And so at this particular point in time, all of the wood has been consumed, incinerated. Now, we do not know what may have escaped during the transmission from the ship onto a barge to be brought into the company that stored it for probably a couple of days, while it was being transported from there to the sanitation services. So that's the background of this particular situation. And it is absolutely horrendous, because whoever would allow something like that to come into our country to pollute and kill our vegetation, our pine forest, which is already suffering from Dorian and invasion of the saltwater, etc. And so, you know, this is why immediately I salute the government that got onto it immediately to find out exactly what had happened, because apparently the Port Authority was not informed. The local, which is the Environmental Department for Freeport, the government department under Mr. Duncanson was not informed either. So the stuff was taken off clandestinely, and which could have created tremendous havoc. So I thank God Almighty that I have that friend in Florida who contacted me, even though late, when I received it, so that we could at least stop it at some level before it, because if that thing had gone into the landfill, that would have been permeating the entire area of Grand Bahama.
Okay, but Joe, here's what I don't get. What kind of what's the word I'm looking for? What kind of cracks are in the wall of our structure that could allow this to happen? I understand that the government agencies were not aware, but is there a problem with the way our system is set up that could allow for something like this to happen?
Well, exactly. And what I found out recently, and this had to do specifically with the ship that's coming to drill oil in the Bahamas. I found out that ships are allowed to come into, I don't know whether Nassau, but to Grand Bahama. And they do not need to have customs or immigration board them to do any inspection. The ship agencies actually clear the ship with customs and immigration. And so there is no presence of anyone from that department on these ships to examine exactly what they contain and what they may be leaving in our environment. And so that, I think, is the tremendous fault. Because if a customs officer had been appointed to board that ship, they would have known exactly what was going down, and they could have stopped it there and then. They could have contacted the environmental department locally, or the Minister of the Environment, or the Minister of Agriculture, to make sure that that stuff would never be offloaded here. That was rejected in the United States of America. Now, I know a lot about this because when I spoke directly to Elliot Hepburn from LNet, who did the first clearance for the ship to come in under pretense of bunkering or getting fuel, I knew exactly what he was talking about because I have worked for the Grand Bahama Shipyard for 8 years, and I know how everything has to be handled that comes off any ships. And we have literally hundreds and thousands of tons of materials that are taken off ships, and it all has to be examined by customs and immigration before it is taken anywhere to the dump. And even sometimes the manager actually puts a GPS so that they could know that the stuff is being taken directly to the dump. Because as Mr. Hepburn said to me, that he has handled stuff that the United States has rejected, but because we have a certain way to deal with it, we could handle it here without any problems. I don't know how correct that is, but that is what I was told. And so this is a loophole that has created havoc on Grand Bahama. That's why we have a species of invasive trees like what they call Jamaican holly that is completely taken over Grand Bahama and Freeport in particular, because they were brought here without permission to form hedges. And now they have permeated everything. They kill out everything on Grand Bahama. We have poisonous snakes which have come in on containers. We have rats that have come in containers. We have geckos that have come in on containers. And how is it that if I go to Florida and I buy an apple or an orange, when I'm leaving that airport, I have to consume that. I cannot bring that in without permission through the airport. So how is it that we're allowing these big, huge ships to come in willy-nilly to offload stuff in our community without any investigation? That is reprehensible. It's foolish. It is absolute, and this is why people can take advantage. Because if the subcontractor saw no need to have a customs immigration officer on that boat, the person or persons were willy-nilly to offload all of this contaminated stuff. And people think it's contaminated because it contained chemicals. It didn't contain chemicals. It contains live animals, live beetles, like 5 different species, all of which can devastate forests in a short period of time. You know what happened to all the citrus in the Bahamas? You walk around Grand Bahama and Abaco, you don't see an orange tree or tree, anything with citrus trees. They have been decimated. And you know why? Because we have imported the thing that kills orange trees, grapefruits, tangerines in the Bahamas. We can't grow them here anymore. I myself, in developing my citrus in my yard, I have purchased dozens of citrus trees trying to get them grow. They cannot grow, immediately attacked by the infestation which was brought in here. So this is why we have to be very careful. Otherwise, we're going to have nothing left for future generations if we're not going to be very meticulous about how we import everything. We have become the center of a piratical operation, that we become the dumping ground of the world, and people do not care. Oh yeah, let's take it to the Bahamas. They don't care. They don't have the environmental fortitude to do anything about it. So that's the situation we face.
So what, in your view, needs to be done to correct the structure, the system that allowed this? And was it always the case where you didn't have to take a customs agent on a vessel, or did something change?
Well, something must have changed, because when I worked at the shipyard during the eight-year period as a workforce development director, we had to have customs and immigration officers on the ship.
That's what I thought.
And they had to examine everything before it was taken off, exactly how it was going to be handled, whether that's going to be materials or whether it's going to be bilge water or black water or whatever. They had to be aware of how it was going to be handled. And it was worked through our system in one of the most expert managers that we had in the shipyard to make sure that nothing was ever leaving that shipyard that can contaminate the environment. So, but in recent times, apparently, they have suspended this procedure of customs and immigration officers going on to these ships, at least in the Grand Bahama area.
I want you to check out this comment that's on the screen now from Anton. Anton says, unfortunately, accepting dunnage at the Grand Bahama port has been going on for years. It's apparent. It apparently is a very lucrative business. Again, it seems that the almighty dollar, again, is more important than our environment. Simply sad. What are your thoughts on that?
Yep. And, I could say something here that, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but there was a huge amount of money involved in this particular episode. Wow. A huge amount of money. But that will have to be investigated by the powers that be to see exactly who received this money and for what reason. To contaminate our environment, to destroy our environment, our farms, our trees, our fruit trees, etc. So yes, there has to be much more diligence put into what comes in here. And even I have friends who work in dealing with containers. Now, I'm not going to say the companies, but they have come to me often and said, Mr. Dow, snakes come in, rats come in, geckos come in. He said, it's unbelievable. And as a couple of years ago, we actually had to deal with a number of poisonous snakes that ended up in Williamstown.
Wow.
They had to be caught and destroyed. They were actually poisonous snakes. Now, they came in here. There is so much clandestine activity going on in Grand Bahama because of the canal system. I mean, for example, I would say this because this has been given to me. More beer comes into the Bahamas illegally than it is brought in legally in Grand Bahama.
Beer?
Beer and alcohol that comes in through our canal system. You could see all the boats that come in here and anchor off West End or off the canal system in Grand Bahama. These areas, you hardly ever see the Defense Force out monitoring. I'm not even talking about getting into our marine resources, because that has been a devastation that's taking place by people out of Florida for many, many years, especially off West End Grand Bahama and off Bimini, because they come over. In fact, someone told me that they actually tow jet skis over, and they could take fish, crawfish, conch back to Florida in that particular fashion. So who is actually monitoring? You look at after even West End, the West End in New Providence, how many big yachts come in there? And I never see customs and immigration going out to them to examine what's on them, what they're bringing in here. So we have a negligence that the international community is aware of, and they use us to the hilt in that particular regard.
And Bahamians love to be used. That's all I could say. We continue selling our birthright for a bowl of porridge.
Yeah.
And this is why these people believe, y'all can afford to reject us. We go into the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Because we know we can get it done there. It's just ridiculous.
So piracy and pirates are very much alive in the Bahamas.
You ain't lie. Just some of them wearing suit.
Yeah, that's right. We're being preyed upon, Michelle, and it really grieves me. And if I hadn't been contacted by that individual, even though late as it was.
Can you imagine? We would have never known.
Can you imagine? It would never have been known.
And then all of a sudden your trees are being decimated and everybody, I wonder
how that happened.
Bahamas.
Yeah.
And we got to... Boy, I tell you, this is a serious time we're living in. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Joseph Darville, and hopefully Eric Carey will be able to join us soon.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Hopefully. So we'll be back after these words from our sponsors. For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
At Lee Air, safety is our number one priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Alive. Alive. Believe in best. And by Tropical Gyros. Not just good food, it's an experience.
Station at all times.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. And my guest today is Joseph Darville. We're talking the dumping ground. How did invasive beetles gain entry into this country? How? What kind of slackness is going on that would allow such a thing to happen? Well, if you can answer that question, you could probably answer the question about how all of these guns are getting into the country. What kind of slackness is going on that is allowing this to continue? Now, thank God somebody alerted Joe Darville and let him know that this cargo of destructive beetles was on its way to the Bahamas. Unfortunately, the message didn't get to him until after the ship was already here. But what would have happened if his contact never alerted him? I want you to think on that for a minute. What would have happened if Joe's contact never alerted him that a ship full of contaminated wood, contaminated with destructive beetles, had made its way to the Bahamas? What if Joe hadn't been alerted? That wood would have not been sprayed and destroyed in the efforts that are ongoing now. And God knows how many of those beetles would have escaped and gone on to cause mass destruction to the environment in Grand Bahama. Thank God. But what if Joe hadn't been alerted? And somebody raised the question earlier. So this kind of thing is probably happening quite frequently that we know not of because an individual hasn't been alerted. That is a very alarming thought. Very alarming thought. And so my guest, Joe Darville, is here. Eric Carey from the Bahamas National Trust has indicated that he'll be joining us on the second half of the show. He had to take an emergency call that, pulled him away from being here on the show on time. So he said by noon he should be able to join us. But Joe, this is a very, very, very serious question in terms of what would have happened if you were not alerted. And quite frankly, we don't even know if we are completely out of the woods because we don't know what escaped before you were alerted and before you took action. So what would have happened if you hadn't received that message? What would we have seen happening in Grand Bahama as a result and could still possibly happen? Okay, you're muted. We're not hearing you all of a sudden. Oh, wait a second. Okay, go ahead. No.
I muted myself. Okay. I've been in contact regularly with Lou Carroll from the sanitation services, the landfill, and also with Michael Pintard. And they have assured me that all that they could do possible to eradicate anything that may have escaped in terms of where the stuff was offloaded, that has been sprayed and decontaminated. So, because undoubtedly those animals getting off the boat in warm weather like that, they probably started to crawl out looking for cooler areas to go. Mm-hmm. And so, and undoubtedly they would have. Now the stuff had to be, of course it was brought in by barge of the ship, and then it was offloaded with the barge. So hopefully that barge has been decontaminated. And the area at the company where it was stationed, that hopefully, and they assured me that has been decontaminated, sprayed, etc. And then the transportation vehicles that brought the stuff from there to the landfill, Mr. Carroll indicated that they also have been sprayed and decontaminated, but that does not assure us at all. And those beetles are incredibly reproductive. One larvae from the female can produce about 200 beetles. And so pray to God that these have not escaped into any areas around where they can multiply. And we have to be on the lookout for them. Our environmental department have to study them carefully and to see if any of them appear any place, because they are voracious. They said that they could destroy a whole forest area over a very short period of time. And so we already have a devastation with our pine forest due to Dorian and the invasion of the salt water. And of course, those dying trees are already kind of like desert area for them, because they don't even have to burrow very diligently in order to get in there to infest the wood. And so, and then the area that you're bringing it from has already been devastated through previous hurricanes that killed the pine forest there, and you have the dead trees standing. So it just boggles my mind that any particular individual, simply because of some monetary value that they could get for doing something illegal, that they would have the unconsciousness to actually perpetrate that against this particular country that relies upon the little bit of land that we have and the massive ocean that we have, and that we will look forward to not destroying it. And I don't, that ties in with what came to me this morning from a reporter. Good day, Eric. Good to see you, man.
Hey, good day. Sorry, my apologies for being late.
We know you're busy, man.
Yeah.
So Michelle, I don't know if you saw what I forwarded to you about what took place in West End the last couple of days.
I did not have a chance to open it.
Oh my God! Well, when you look at it, it's about a 12-foot dinghy boat coming into West End to dock. And there are piles and piles of conchs to one side and pile of conch shells to another. Right. And lying on the deck of this boat is about a 10-foot hammerhead shark. And the individual is rejoicing over the fact that they brought in using obscene language. So excuse it because it's some obscene language in the forward that I sent to you about the shark that they caught. And already the individual who sent that to me this morning indicated that he got a response, which I also sent to you, that the individuals are saying, well, what do you want? You want the shark to eat us, or should we eat the shark? Hammerhead sharks are the most docile creatures on the planet. They don't eat and they don't attack human beings at all. I have swam with hammerhead sharks, I've swam with lemon sharks, and all around them, and even the lemon sharks that probably have been hooked by people who come out of Florida and think that they could fish for sharks off Sandy Key. You swim out there with them, they come wiggling up to the top of the water, trying to tell you, please take this hook out of my mouth. And so, we got so much to teach our people. And this is something that is right up Eric's line. What is in the mind of these people who would hold and then to publicly post it that he captured this huge, docile hammerhead shark, bring it into West End? My God, what's wrong with my people?
Eric, let's get you in on this conversation. This whole beetle situation. What was the response of you individually and the National Trust as it relates to how this happened and what we need to do to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
Well, we don't. Our response is that we were obviously dismayed. We're quite alarmed that something like this could happen. What we are very interested in is in hearing from the government what is the result of their investigations, because what is most important, I'm reading something on social media where the representative, the importer representative, saying, oh, you can't blame me, it's not my fault, it's someone else's fault. What we need to know as a country is, how did this happen? Because as Joe has been saying since this broke, hopefully we have indeed avoided this thing escaping, this beetle escaping, because as Joe said, it would be a prolific breeder and it would exert incredible pressure, environmental pressure on an already threatened ecosystem. The pine forests are threatened from obviously Dorian and actually hurricanes before that. There's been a lot of soil intrusion in the pine forests of Grand Bahama. So we don't need this. But what is most important, I think, and this is what all of us are waiting, is we'd like to hear from the government on the results of their investigation. And not necessarily, of course, if someone is if someone is at fault and were negligent or they did anything illegal, then certainly they should be held accountable under whatever legal penalties we have. But most importantly, we need to try and figure out how did it happen from the perspective of trying to avoid it happening in the future. As you know, Grand Bahama is an area where there's so much international shipping. We're always going to be under the threat of something like this happening, just because there's so much movement of materials, products, ships, containers in and out of Grand Bahama, just by virtue of the transshipment that takes place there. So we have to try and make sure that we have in place mechanisms to prevent this from happening in the future, because we may have dodged this beetle bullet, but we certainly don't want to set ourselves up for a repeat of this and something else that then really becomes a huge, huge problem for our either terrestrial or marine environment.
Okay, so I have somebody that is asking a very valid question. One of my Facebook viewers says, what information or paperwork did the subcontracting company receive to go from a simple refueling to offloading? I think that's a very valid question. Does anybody know?
Well, I think there's a simple answer to that. That would form part of the minute investigation that has to be made by the governmental departments,
right?
Because they should see all the documentation with respect to what did the ship apply for, what did the the company approved for the ship to actually dock in Freeport. And so all of that has to be examined very carefully. And then if this stuff was subcontracted out, also that documentation should be also examined. And then the ship itself, that needs to be, because we're talking about what an international maritime organization, which controls what these ships do and where they go. And so that ship has to be held responsible to say to our government exactly how it got to be able to have permission to offload this contaminated, infested wood on Grand Bahama. So that's up to the government. They're doing a full investigation. I must expect for them to be diligent in it, minute, and no matter how many heads going to roll. As I said earlier, according to what I've been told, there was a large sum of money that was paid out for the handling of this material.
You have to question whether or not this was an intentional act on the part of the ship owners. Here's what I mean.
Of course, I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah,
really.
Let's face it.
I don't.
They were rejected by one city in the U.S. How many cities did they have to pass where they could have stopped for fuel?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They had to make it all the way to the Bahamas to get fuel.
But then the curious thing is, the article that was sent to me by my friend in the States said that they were on the way to Grand Bahama, Freeport, in order to offload the material.
Exactly. So
why didn't our marine observation system become aware of that somewhere when it left there, I think on the 21st of July. So it probably took like 4 or 5 days. Unfortunately, I only got the stuff the day actually after it was offloaded, 2 days afterwards. By that time, the ship had left.
That raises another very important question. Because if you received the information after that thing had already been here for 2 days, that's what you're saying?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for 2 days, this contaminated wood was in Grand Bahama.
Sat at that place at the harbor.
So for 2 days.
And part of it had been loaded up and taken to the sanitation services, the landfill.
And how long were they at the landfill before you were alerted?
He had it there for about 2 days before he realized, he got my message that it was contaminated.
So that's 2 days that those beetles could have said, "Oh, we have a new playground."
Oh yeah, undoubtedly, no doubt about that. That warm temperature, they probably crawl out to looking for cool areas and cool wood and nice green stuff to get into. You know, who knows what happened, man? You know, why we got to be treated like, like we're still the home of the pirates.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Joe? I don't think we can blame anybody else for treating us poorly if we welcome the poor treatment. Because they came to the Bahamas because they, I heard Pastor Miles say something once. He said, if you profess to be a believer and somebody comes to you asking you to do something underhanded, you are the problem, because they felt comfortable enough to come to you to say, "Man, let's do this under the table." So you are the problem, because if you were living your life in such a way that your life was a testimony of what you stand for, they was gonna say, "Boy, you should go to her because she ain't gonna listen to us." So I can't say that we could blame anybody else for taking it back, because they know that you have people in this country who have apparently very little scruples, no conscience when it comes to selling their country out just for a bowl of porridge. So I don't blame them. They know why they come to the Bahamas.
Exactly. Let me give this little caveat that I found out, that this was carried out under the dock at nighttime. Now that's really strange. Why nighttime?
What was carried out at nighttime? The offloading of the vessel?
Offloading it from the ship to taken to the place where it was.
Wow.
Nighttime.
And again, I think so. There are certain indicators that something certainly uh, um, illicit was intended. Okay, one, the captain knew from he was turned away from New Orleans, wherever. I have a bad product. I have to offload it. So his intent was to take this unwanted thing somewhere. He passed all of those cities and states along the Gulf on the way to the Bahamas, through Florida, etc. Obviously, the intent was malintention from he left there. And this is what we need to figure out as a country is, when did this all get arranged? I mean, did he contact someone in Grand Bahama and say, hey, I need to come and offload something? Because there are certain protocols that will then kick in. Okay, this is what you need to happen. This is what needs to happen. You need this document, this certificate, this blah, blah, etc. If it's all legitimate and above board, it might, maybe things happen at night because of the fact that the port is open 24 hours. I don't know. So the fact that it happened at night is not necessarily something illegal or illicit, but certainly the fact that this guy left with bad intention, with a spoiled product, with a dangerous threat on board, proceeded to Grand Bahama, and did this thing in the dark of night, as Joe is saying, then that certainly raises a lot of red flags. And what we need to get to as a country is, where did the arrangements happen, and where did and who broke our law, and then what is going to happen to those individuals who broke our laws, whether it is the captain or whoever. And I hope, Joe, that there isn't a loophole. I hope that there isn't a loophole where the guy offloaded, he didn't offload products in containers, whatever. He's just offloading packaging equipment.
Yeah.
We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Yes. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
GPS Live Nation.
Good morning.
And guests and faithful Facebook, YouTube viewers everywhere. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon now. I'm sorry. Thank you, Michelle, for this great opportunity. Let me just get right to the point. The sovereign citizens of this country, okay, of this nation, the Bahamas, we must have honorable citizens to defend our Bahamian people's sovereignty. This nation, like America, belongs to Americans and those who are invited in legally. This nation belongs to us. What have baffled me and have left me astonished is the fact that we claim to be Christian people in this part of the world. Our leaders also, minus one, and that happened lately, disclosing his satanic religious views. No problem.
Stay focused.
Stay focused. But all of that is relevant. What I'm saying here, Michelle and GPS Live family, our nation, people is wealthy. We are the money individually. Do not tell me it's not about you, Amos, or it's not about the people listening and watching, and put it on the beast. Nature has a way of speaking to us, even if us, humanity, make mistakes, whether we get paid to make those mistakes or not. However, what you and I are going through is much more important, okay, than the bee situation. Yet, without bees, we won't have pollination or food. But we don't need dangerous things to be happening in our country without our knowledge. Like one of your persons say, what is done in the dark always comes to light. Bertha Smith says that on Facebook. The fact is, Michelle, both leading parties must be sent a divine word from individual Bahamians. The time has come. You and I don't have no tomorrow to weigh on as relates to when we should open our mouth and stand up with the spirit of truth against the spirit of error. Good day, because I could keep running on.
Yeah, and we ain't gonna let that happen today. Boy, Amos, you consistent. Boy, you consistent. All right.
Michelle and Eric, one thing I wanted to say before I forget it.
Okay.
And that is that by now, I think our connection to the International Ship Association, whatever they, or what do you call it? The, IMO. We should already have put out word there that ship should be quarantined, to be examined, and to pay a hefty fine for what it has perpetrated against a family nation, the Bahamas. So I'm hoping that our government, particularly the people who deal with the International Registry of Ships and all of that, and this ship has been here apparently on a number of occasions, because I was told by the company who cleared it to come in that they are the regular agency for this ship, which means that it has come here. And so maybe it knew the loopholes that exist here. And I say, hey, man, let's go to the Bahamas because we could dump all this stuff there and then get out of there real fast. At middle of the night, no one would know anything about it. So let's get, in fact, I don't like to talk in terms of money because I'm talking about our precious environment. That ship is found at fault for deviously coming in. That should be charged $1 billion, not a million, $1 billion for contravening the sovereignty of this sovereign nation that we have. And I say that to all the politicians, Prime Minister, the Attorney General. You know something? I got a call from the person in the Governor General's, the Governor Home and the Governor General the other day, and she expressed absolute horror. But she said, like, if it weren't for people like Eric Carey, you and Rashima Ingham, and these people who are fighting for our environment, God only knows what would happen to us in this country. And that is really despicable, because, we are maligned. We think we're just trying to get rid of development. That is not our objective. We love development, but do it with respect. We are not the center of piracy. Well, how did Latin go? How did it go, Eric? You remember the thing? Restitutus, the pirates are expelled and trade is restored.
Yeah. that was a fantasy.
Huh? Yeah, that's good. I remember that Latin expression all the time, but I can't remember it right now.
Gentlemen, we have to take a quick break. When we come, I want to talk about...
Sponsored by Ratters, Commercial Restituta. That's it.
Yeah, I want to talk about the teeth of our environmental laws and whether or not, if it is found that something untoward went down, can we get some restitution for this, both from the locals and from... This is if something went wrong. I'm not saying that it has. Okay, because that's why the investigation is underway. But what kind of teeth, what kind of bite can we expect to be met upon those who have committed this act, if in fact it is found to be something egregious? And quite frankly, even if the locals claim ignorance, the people on that ship certainly knew what they were doing. Somebody needs to pay. There needs to be some restitution for this. I want to talk about that on the other side of the break. So stay with us. This is GPS. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors, talking to Joe Darville and Eric Carey. The show today is called The Dumping Ground. How did invasive beetles gain entry into this country? We will be back after these words from our sponsors.
Looking for an extraordinary junior high school with caring, qualified staff and affordable tuition? Then come visit us at Elite School of Excellence, an affiliate of First Step Academy. ABECA-focused and Ministry of Education approved, we foster discipline, integrity, and wisdom while molding our students for success. Call us at 341-8846 or stop by First Step Academy schools on Fire Trail and Soldy Roads for more information.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Escape from the city life to Bacon Air Beach Resort in Pirateswell, Mayaguana. Relax in one of 16 air-conditioned rooms just steps away from the ocean. Enjoy scrumptious dishes in our waterfront dining room. Sip on a tropical cocktail, or if you must, stay connected with wireless internet. Nestled on one of the most beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, Bacon Air Beach Resort offers a unique vacation experience. For reservations, call 339-3726 or 463-0182. This portion of GPS is brought to you by Easy Car Sales, home of the electric vehicle. Visit easy242.com and free yourself from gas.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. My guests today are Joseph Darville and Eric Carey. I'm calling the show today The Dumping Ground. How did invasive beetles gain entry into this country? Our telephone line is 828-3543. 828-3543 is the number to call, 828-3543. And the text line is 828-2543. 828-2543 is the text line. So, gentlemen, teeth. Do we have environmental laws that have sufficient bite so that they could possibly serve as a deterrent from people sneaking things into the country in the middle of the night so they could get away with, possible nefarious acts?
So this is an area where I would give Minister Ramon Ferreira a lot of credit. I remember meeting with Minister Ferreira very early on in his term, and we were discussing, I think specifically the Clifton issue, the Clifton oil issue. Minister Ferreira, in an earlier part of his life, was actually an environmental officer at Clifton. He was very familiar with it. Then he became an attorney, obviously understanding the law, and he had a strong focus on environmental law. And I remember talking about the problem, and he said, when he became minister, he realized very quickly, I'm sure he knew this before, that he didn't have within his portfolio the ability to deal with Clifton, the problem of the oil at Clifton, under the auspices and under the authority, under the legal mandate of a Ministry of Environment. And this wasn't only unique to that. There were other environmental issues that he felt there just wasn't the environmental teeth within his ministry to deal with it as the ministry and the Minister of Environment. And he set about on a mandate of creating what he felt should be robust, very progressive legislation. And I think that the Department of the Environmental Planning and Protection Act is a very robust piece of legislation which gives wide coverage to both marine and terrestrial issues. And I think it also allows for significant penalties. I don't know if we could charge the $1 billion that Joe would like to penalize them, but certainly I think that there are significant penalties within that legislation. So I think there is some good teeth in the legislation, much better than we had, 7 or 8 years ago. The question is, of course, enforcement, and that's always the issue. Oftentimes, a country doesn't need more legislation. What a country needs is to enforce existing legislation. So, with this wonderful legislation that Minister Ferreira has pushed through very aggressively, and I would give him credit for it. I think what needs to happen now is that we need to see a commensurate level of enforcement, meaning people that Director Rochelle Newbold has within her portfolio, within her arsenal to go out and enforce these regulations. I think that you need more people on the islands to be able to watch out for things like this. Also Minister Pintard, to his credit, also just pushed through a very powerful piece of legislation on the marine side, the new Fisheries Act. So I think we have good legislation. Where we need to do a better job of, obviously, is, like so many other things, enforcement. And you need to enforce not only the big infractions, you need to also start enforcing things like litter and the smaller things, because those smaller things add up to thousands of infractions, and then you have a huge impact. And if you don't enforce the smaller pieces of legislation, if you don't get people for the small infractions, then they think we're lawless and we're not coming after them for anything. So legislation is there. I'm sure there's always an opportunity to review and strengthen, but I think what we need to focus on as a country, and what I'd like to see Minister Ferreira focus on, is obviously more teeth for the Department of Environment and Planning and Protection, so that they could indeed be able to carry out the mandate that they've been given, to be able to do this.
Joe?
Michelle, there is really nothing I could add to what Eric has said, and I underscore everything that he's put out there in terms of what the Minister of the Environment and the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries have done. I think we have sufficient legislation, but it's up to the people to be conscientized and to be taught how to deal with this matter. We have become, if you look at Grand Bahama, Freeport in particular, we are a mess. We are so polluted. There's so much stuff around. Can you imagine the thousands of vehicles still draining oil into the environment? And I want to put this out there because I've been meaning to say this. I find it reprehensible that my government that imposed an environmental tax years ago, to my knowledge, have not spent one dime in order to deal with all of the things to do with car batteries, oil disposal, tires disposal, etc. I don't know about the rest of the Bahamas and New Providence, but certainly not here on Grand Bahama. You know what the people do? When they got about 100 tires that they have no place to do because they can't take them to landfill because they got to pay for them there, and they go out into the pine forest and they dump them there. So spend the money for which we were taxed. If I go and I buy a battery for $270, you can bet that $35 of that dollars is environmental tax on that battery. So we have the laws, we have the finances that goes into the treasury, but we're just not doing what needs to be done. Because you know why? We have a home of pirates, and enforcement should include stronger and better relationships with NGOs, CSOs, and or environmental groups. That just came from one of my colleagues here in Freeport. We're not included. We're the ones who are out there fighting for our environment, and we are neglected. We don't want no praise, but we want to be recognized for the work that we do and give us some finances to do what the government's supposed to be doing. And this whole thing, we got too many pirates there. Now I remember, I'm a Latin scholar, so I should remember that. What's on our symbols and all that? Expulsus piratus. Pirates are expelled.
Yeah.
Commercia restituta. Commercial is restored. we have more pirates homegrown right here in the Bahamas, and they're the ones who feeding off us. I'm talking about emancipation. Well, listen, that's a big joke. we can't even take that seriously because we have yet to recognize our ability to be free and to care for what we are as free Black people, and not allow us to be used and abused by the oligarchy few, but 1% that owns 99% of the wealth of this country. And that's why so many people are trying to get their hands in there, because from the very top, we have the example of how we are misused, abused as a people. God only knows when we will be getting able to expel the pirates that are homegrown. We got them right here. They didn't come from England. Well, they originally came from England and elsewhere, and some of them still here from England. But we have homegrown pirates right here, and we don't want to kill them and expel them, but we want to expel that mentality out of them. That they're going to get everything that they want to get, irrespective of what it does to our precious environment.
Well, Joe, good luck with that.
Listen, Michelle. I want to mention this. We put out there, the Waterkeepers, on the auspices of Waterkeepers Bahamas. We put out a competition to write essays, and we're going to hopefully get enough money to give awards so students can buy books and supplies and all of that. And oh my God, we've been going through these essays and they're absolutely brilliant. They're saying everything about the environment. The topic actually was severe hurricanes, climate change, and sea level rise. And these kids are brilliant. Parents need to listen to them. And hopefully we're going to publish some of these essays online or in the papers, and we'll get on radios and read some of those expressions that came from all over, from Eleuthera, from Nassau, from Grand Bahama, from Bimini, so many schools. I think we have over probably going towards about 55 or 60 entries right now. So, I mean, I've been totally amazed by the knowledge that these young people have. And they have been listening to us. They have been listening to Eric Carey, they've been listening to Ferreira, they've been listening to Rashima Ingram, our people here in Grand Bahama, etc. So yeah, we got a young people, but they, we work with them because we feel that they can persuade the old heads to do the right things for our precious environment, whether it's land or marine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. I want you both to explain to our audience the importance of preserving our environment. I mean, because people don't seem to make the connection. And here's where I'm going with this. This isn't necessarily the same as to what we see happening with the beetles, but the concept is the same. KCX just passed several days ago, and he and I had developed a friendship over the last several months of his life. And we often had some very long, deep conversations. And one of the things that led him to get into advocacy was environmental pollution in Grand Bahama. And I remember him telling me that on the one street where he lived, that so many people on that one street died from this one rare form of cancer. And the thing is that, cancer is what eventually took his life as well. And he was so adamant and so, I'm getting a message saying my battery is low. It's plugged in. I'm not sure what's going on. But anyway, he was so passionate about getting people to understand that we have a responsibility when it comes to taking care of our environment, because when we do not take care of our environment, then it can't take care of us. Mm-hmm. And so I want you all both to please help our audience to understand the importance, because some people might be listening to this show and say, oh, it's just a couple of beetles, a couple of trees. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? What is the big deal here?
Well, the big deals are very simple to understand. 2 years ago, we had Hurricane Dorian, and as a result of that, we had millions of gallons of oil spilled into our forests. quote unquote, fortunately, it did not go into the ocean because at that time the wind was coming from the south and it blew the oil into the north, into the pine forest. If it had happened during the Carnatic action, because we tell that by the way the pine trees, pine trees are very resilient. They do not break. They twist and then they bend. So they were all bending towards the south, which meant that fortunately the wind was only 140 knots because that's how the caps were made to fit the oil tanks at that particular force. So if it had come during the time of tornado, all that would have gone into the ocean. And so, this is why we're fighting. And right now, it is basically Save the Bays and Waterkeepers Bahamas who have been monitoring, even at the level of legal action against the whole situation with oil spilling and also with the ship that came in to drill for oil. And, we are maligned. People think that we're trying to stop development, but that is not the case because we know what will destroy our environment. And when you have an ocean that is connected and always moving dynamic, and you have an oil spill, if it happened at Equinor, it meant that the whole coastal area of Florida would have been inundated with oil, including our northern Bahamas, etc. So we are struggling desperately to sensitize the government, to put in place minds of people who are wise, conscientized with respect to what is needed to protect our environment. And stop thinking that we're stopping development. We're not. We're trying to preserve what is here for future generations. And we're always getting these obstacles. Like we got to fight the government. We got to fight foreign companies. That is ridiculous. The moment that we say to the government, look, this is something that we, as conscientized, wise people, we're not, just Tom, Dick, and Harry dropped in from the clouds or something. We are people who have grown up in this country and know what is necessary. So we need to be listened to by the government. They have all of this stuff going on right now with campaigning. Let me see how many environmental people are going to be invited by any of these political parties to address the crowds, to say to them what they need to do to protect their heritage, rather than just go in there they probably not even got enough food to feed them with this time round. So instead of just going there to get something to eat, we want to know that we have a precious environment, Michelle, to protect for future generations. Whether it's on land, we have only a little bit of that. We're going to have less by the end of the century because the ocean is going to come up. So that's why we need to save the ocean. Foolishness about drilling oil in our water, when that's all we have to rely on. So those are the things that we have to get across to our politicians. And those people who get in there, I was completely disappointed in the whole political entity in the last number of years when we had so many young people in Parliament who should have been a little bit more sensitive about what is necessary to be done expeditiously to save our country.
Mm-hmm. Eric, why is this a big deal?
You ask, why is the environment important? It is what sustains us. Whether you're talking about just our general way of life and being able to breathe clean air, it's that simple. Whether it's getting food from the environment, so having healthy oceans that support us being able to get fish. Then from an economic perspective, our entire tourism product is dependent on having an intact, healthy, clean environment. So everything we do as a country is dependent upon our environment. And as Joe was intimating, we're not anti-development organizations. I mean, we're not saying to the government, you don't have the ability to explore opportunities to create jobs, especially those that are going to generate wealth and buy-in opportunities for Bahamians. We understand that's a part of our way of life. But what we're saying is you have to be careful to strike a balance. You cannot kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Our golden egg is in tourism. Our golden egg is the environment.
Amen.
Yes, we will have some developments which will have an impact on the environment. Let's make sure that we do careful analysis of those impacts. Let's make sure that where there's an impact, that we mitigate and we offset that. Or we need to be brave enough as a country, if a development comes in and it looks like it will create a lot of jobs, or it will have a significant impact, but the environmental impact is too significant, we should be brave enough as a country to reject it. And this is what we, when we were looking at the whole discussion about OBAN, we felt as those on this side of the fence that OBAN was just bad for the Bahamas, not only the inherent risk of an oil spill from an active refinery, but just the fact of producing so many hydrocarbons to be used locally or to be used globally. We're contributing to the very thing that is our existential threat. Climate change, global warming. Why should we be contributing to that? So as a country, we need to be able to make brave decisions about what is allowable and what is absolutely and totally 100% not compatible, not compliant, and not acceptable to the Bahamian way of life, even if it brings a few jobs. We need to be able to say, no, thank you, take that somewhere else. Take it to Florida. We will look for other development opportunities that create economic opportunities for Bahamians, especially those that provide opportunities for buy-in and for entrepreneurship, etc. Not the traditional, I'm going to create 10,000 jobs. So you can't do your development without creating jobs anyway. So to me, that's an automatic. That's not a huge benefit. You can't do a development without creating jobs. Find some opportunities that create wealth, that allow for Bahamians to participate in some of these development projects, rather than just going in and saying, okay, you got a maid job or front desk job. You're now a part of ownership. You're now a part of creating wealth. Those types of developments, we are prepared to, on this side of the fence, be part of the review. But for those that we find absolutely incompatible and incorrigible, like oil, for God's sake, let's not even consider that, because it is absolutely incompatible with the sustainability of our very future.
It goes back to what I said earlier. Somebody put it this way: you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And quite frankly, we have some lousy negotiators. They go in from the point of being less than. We seem to have this inferiority complex when we go into these negotiations. So instead of going and saying, you came to us for a reason, you want to be here for a reason, so this is our terms that we're going to do this on, we bend over backwards to make sure that they're happy and giving them everything before they even ask for it. So I think we need to change.
Hey, you want some more? You want some more?
Perception of ourselves. Because you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And maybe the time has come for us to stop using our politicians as negotiators, because they have proven from successive administrations that they are lousy at it. And so maybe we need to look at some kind of independent body, independent arbitrators who are going to do the negotiating for this country, because our politicians they just ain't got it. I'm sorry, they don't. And we continuously see where, because of that, we get these deals that you would have both just described that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the Bahamian people. So that is something that we really need to think of. But I have to take a break. But I want us to consider this to discuss on the other side of the break, because I've called this show the dumping ground for a reason. Because this thing with the beetles is now in everybody's in the forefront of everybody's mind. But clearly, it's not the first time that the Bahamas was chosen as a dumping ground for whatever. This goes back decades.
Exactly. That's why I want to bring up Pindus Point Lewis Yard Hunters, which has been originally the dumping ground.
Let's talk about that on the other side of the break.
Yeah.
We got to play our final break of the show, because my sponsors keep the show on the air. I got to make sure they get their commercials played. Then we come back on the other side. We will talk about this long history of the Bahamas being the dumping ground of the world. Is this what has our people so sick? What are we doing to ourselves by treating ourselves? Anyway, we can take a break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion with Joe Darville and Eric Carey The dumping ground. How did those beetles gain entry into this country? That and more on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
One of the things I love about the mailboat is their relationship with Bahamas Air. I can earn travel points on my international freight and redeem them when I fly.
For me, online shopping is easy, with mailboat to US addresses and regular freight delivery to Nassau. Plus, I can always prepay customs and freight, and they always notify me when my package arrives.
Yeah, a lot of people think the mailboat is just for shipping, but they also offer a safe and secure storage facility at affordable rates, all in a central, convenient location.
We also offer passenger service into Freeport multiple times per week with a seating capacity of over 450 persons. With family movies on large screens, one hot meal included, and on-board lounge for snacks and soft drinks. We're the mailboat. We're bridging people, products, and places.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by
Classic Formal Wear, the place where you can find everything you need for that special occasion.
and by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. Before we dive back into the conversation, I'd like to say a special thank you and welcome aboard to our newest sponsor, Classic Formal Wear. Thank you, Maxine and Greg, for your support. Really do appreciate it, you guys being here on board. Okay, so our guests today are Joseph Darville and Eric Carey. We're talking the dumping ground. Before we go any further into what Joe mentioned prior to the break, we have a caller on the line, so let's go to the phone lines. Carla, welcome to GPS.
Good day, Michelle. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you, JT?
Pretty good, thanks. And good afternoon to Mr. Darville and Mr. Carey.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you.
You know, the question I will ask, well, let me lead by saying this. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. When people are willing and prepared to do anything, no matter how wrong or bad or terrible or harmful it is, for money, that's when money is a problem. My point for saying that is this. I'm finding it hard, Michelle and guest, to believe that all of these wrong or bad or stupid decisions, such as this one, this latest one, is being done by people who have a clear head, or by people who don't have an ulterior motive, i.e. money. I'm having a problem believing that money is not a motive. So what I'd like to ask your guest, and you gentlemen may or may not want to touch this, but do you folks have any information over the years that might point to any money exchanging hand between these companies and government officials as to why Bahamian government officials have been allowing the country to be a dumping ground? Because again, I find it hard to believe that common sense and clear-headedness is allowing this. There's got to be something behind the scenes that you and me and all of we don't know as to why we are constantly having this done. And I'll hang up, gentlemen, and Michelle and Guest, I'll hang up and listen to the response.
Thank you so much for calling, JT.
You're welcome.
Okay, Michelle,
I would just say, you know, as a former civil servant, public servant, I certainly understand that there is corruption in any systems, in the private sector and the public sector. But to answer JT's question specifically, I have not come across this as a major problem of government officials being bribed to do these sorts of things. So I don't have any evidence of that, and I don't really see any indication of that. I see often just a lack of enforcement of regulations, whether that is motivated by some financial incentive, illegal financial incentive. I'm not in a position to comment on that. I just to answer this question, I have no evidence that is taking place, and that is what is forcing us to have these issues of these things being dumped. Whether it's this issue of this last shipment, or whether it's outdated technology, because that's the other thing that's really important and very relevant to your topic. You know, getting air conditioners, you know, you can go and buy an air conditioner in certain stores that are, you know, a couple $100, these split units, but when you check it out, their energy rating is so horrible, they won't be able to sell those in Florida or in developed countries. Some of the vehicles that are being exported, the fumes that the exhaust that they put out, the levels would be not acceptable in developed countries. So not only are we thinking about actual dumping of garbage or something like this incident, but generally philosophically being used to offload technology or industrial items that are no longer able to be utilized in industrial countries, in first world countries, even if they are quote unquote still new and in the package. They are not environmentally friendly, and they do not meet environmental standards, and in the short term will have an impact not only on our environment, but in some cases, as KCX was talking about, you know, human health and welfare. So we have to be careful, and I don't think it's a matter of really just corruption. I think we need to put in place and insist on regulations that prevent us from being a dumping ground. No old vehicles, that have bad emission standards, air conditioners that do not meet first world rates for for their energy use, etc. These are the things we need to be thinking about as a country to prevent ourselves in truly being a legitimate dumping ground. So things will come in legally with custom clearance, etc. But in reality, we're accepting junk disguised as and dressed up as brand new stuff or slightly used stuff from the first world.
Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, Michelle, let me take a few moments just to put this whole thing in context with respect to a particular environment on Grand Bahama, namely Pindus Point, Louisiade, Hunters, Hawksbill. That area, the people have been dying regularly. Hundreds of them have died of cancer and directly related to the industrial area. Originally, they were subjected to all of the industrial area being put in right next door to them. If you go there, you could take a rock and throw it from some houses in Pindus Point and hit the tanks of Borco. That has been a situation which has caused the death of so many people. And I have a lot of information about that because I was the first one to demonstrate against those companies, along with my teachers eventually, to get the Catholic High removed from that area. And I badgered Sajak and Edward St. George to make sure that all of the schools were removed from there, not just Catholic High. But let me tell you something. KCX mentioned the fact about people dying of cancer. Do you know from one class of Catholic High, I think it was the 87 class, some 14 of the students have predeceased me. And 12 of them have died cancer directly related to industrial pollution. Let me get very personal. In 2010, I was diagnosed with cancer in the bladder. When they removed the cancerous tumor from my bladder, the operators came to my room at Cleveland Clinic in Florida, and they said, "Sir, did you smoke all your life?" I said, "No, I've never smoked in my life." I said, "Did you work in an industrial plant?" I said, "No, but I worked near there for a number of years near the industrial plant." They said, "Because the cancer that we took out of you is only related to perpetual smoking or industrial pollution." So with the 12 students of mine who have died, and myself, God only knows why I'm still alive, because I'm supposed to be dead since 2010 because of the context, the way that tumor had, I can't even go into details of it. But the fact is, I give that personally to indicate that I was motivated because I used to go out that school in the mornings at 6 o'clock to open up the windows and doors, put on the fans to blow the pollution out of those classrooms. And I had fights with Edward St. George and all these people from the Port Authority, asking and begging them to get the communities and the schools out of that area. So, but the point is, Michelle and Eric, you know what they did initially in order to bring all of that stuff in there and plunk it right down? They brought a number of the leaders in that community, Pindus Point especially. They took them to California. They wined and dined them there and convinced them that this was going to be so great for them. And now the wells that they traditionally got water from, they bring up is oil. You can scratch a match and it will light up. And so these are the things that I've been fighting my government to get the people out of there. Conscientiously, how could they allow these people to die year after year? They've all been there with meetings from the environmental ministers from Pilling's time until now, and they just listen to all of these warnings of the people who can't breathe. They can't open their windows because of pollution coming in, and they can't close them because then they suffocate inside their rooms. That's what the neglect has been perpetrated against the people on Grand Bahama. So we have become the dumping ground of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because they do it irrespective of the impact it's having upon people's lives. People have died. One young lady who was she actually ran one of the Burger King here in Freeport. One day I got a call from her mother. She said, "Mr. Darville, my daughter wants you to come. She wants to show you something." She was on her deathbed. Because she was able to afford to see doctors in Florida, she had 3 doctors. She had all the documents laid out on her desk. She said, "Mr. D, look at them, please." This was 3 days before she died of cancer. She said every doctor examined her, said, "You're dying of or permanent cancer due to pollution from industrial plants. What more evidence you need than that? And I have told the leaders of this country that over and over again. But have they raised a finger to relocate those people or to deal with that? Nothing. Listen, let me put this one thing in there. Edward St. George, he and I almost came to battle one day because I was over at Catholic High, and the principal of Hawksville Primary called me. She said, Mr. Dow, please come. I got 35 students who can't breathe. So I said, call the ambulances. So by the time I got over there, by that time we had plenty of ambulances in Freeport. 5 came there, took 35 students to the Rand Memorial Hospital. Edward St. George showed up with his wife. I say in this story because this got to be in writing. So he and I got into a fierce battle of words, almost came to fight, a battle. Henrietta came between them. She said, Henry, shut up. She said, if you don't believe Joe Darville, go down to the hospital and check on those students that went there. So in the evening time, I got a call from Edward. Joe, I'm calling you on behalf of Henny, but I call him on my behalf. He said, when I went to the hospital and saw 17 of those students still on ventilators trying to breathe, I understand what you were going through. So that's the type of stuff that's been perpetrated against us. Who is being paid to allow these companies to do that? You know what, Syntex, they sent $7 million to upgrade their pollution system after I complained so much to the government. Finally, the government got an independent company to come in. You know what they had to spend? $7 billion to upgrade. They hated my guts. Even when we were relocated, they didn't even spend one dime to assist us in the relocation out of the industrial area there. And again, one of the guys who helped Syntex to close up all of his stuff and get the heck out of Freeport, he told me, he said, Joe, he said, I got to talk to you because he said, I am so ashamed of myself. He said, when they were leaving, they had me dig this ditch on the property of Syntex. And he said, all of the chemicals that they were refused to send back to the United States, they were dumped into that hole. And I have said that, but has there been any investigation to find that hole and to hold that company to responsible? And before Edward died, he told me, he said, Joe, I wish I had listened to you. He said, we just sunk 14 wells in Pinders Point, Lewishard, Hunters, and that other new community. He said, everyone came saturated with oil. He said, there are millions of barrels of oil under the ground in those places.
Here's the thing.
I said all this because I saw someone said, what about all the people dying in Pinders Point and so forth? You saw that. Yeah. But I wanted to respond to include that information.
Here's the thing. You bring up a very valid point. Because if they would acknowledge that the environment is making people sick, I would think that your priority would be the health and welfare of your people. So I would think that the powers that be would willingly relocate those people. Foot the bill, because the people are the ones who decided to put the industrial plants where they put them. Mm-hmm. So relocate the people at your expense. But the problem is, and I see this a lot in my practice as a health coach, because many of my clients are government employees who are working in mold-infested buildings. Same problem in terms of poisoning people. And not only poisoning people, but forcing them to stay in the toxic environment and threatening them. You can't, I'm not going to allow you to work from home. No, you better come to work or you lose your job. They don't care because how much money is too much money to save the life of your citizens?
Amen.
How much money is too much?
Mm-hmm.
And listen, that's another show because I get very passionate about that because I too nearly died from mold. How much money is too much for you to do the right thing for your people? It's just, it's, let me stay focused. Now, I have a question here from somebody from Facebook, and their question is, why isn't there a lawsuit in the making? Do our laws prohibit, let's say the people of Grand Bahama decided to take action because of this, yet again, apparent dumping of something in your environment that is going to be, that could possibly be detrimental. What, and I know you guys aren't lawyers, but is there any kind of legal recourse?
There is legal recourse, but no lawyer would take it up because the poor people out there can't pay for it. The only lawyer, and he's done too much already in this country in dealing with it, Fred Smith. And he was the one who helped me to actually deal with that whole situation with Syntex, because they said that the scrubber system was 99.9% efficient. Well, I finally convinced the government to bring in an independent investigator, and they said it was totally useless. So that's why they had to spend $7 million to upgrade the pollution. But let me tell you something. I did, back in those days, I was also leading along with Stephen Placaris and Dr. Forgot her name now, Operation Hope. And I was really not intrigued, but horrified by the number of drug addicted people from that area. And so I did a whole lot of investigation. And I got someone who said to me unequivocally that wherever people are and they're subjected to a lot of pollution, particularly industrial pollution, their first recourse is probably to relieve it by becoming addicted to a substance to kind of alleviate them from the trauma of that particular situation. So that, and again, and all of the miscarriages and all of the cancer still perpetrating that area, what is wrong with my government that they cannot be conscientized to that situation? It was a city outside the wall. So what can I say?
Wow. Oh, this is very discouraging.
It is, and I mean, we can't debate that issue that Joe is bringing up, but it needs to be looked into. I've heard too many, as a Bahamian, I'm just speaking as a Bahamian, not necessarily as an environmentalist, but I've heard so many reports of human health issues resulting from industrial pollution, and it just doesn't seem to get national attention. And I agree with Joe. I know Fred Smith has tried to look into this, and there's only so much Fred could do, but from the number of people that complain about this, is certainly something that should get national attention and should be fully investigated, because it sounds like some people have really been negatively impacted, wronged, and in fact have paid the ultimate price of their life based on having been impacted by industrial pollution. That should not happen in today's Bahamas, and we should be able to get to the bottom of it and be assured that we looked into it and we found that there was no correlation or that there was a correlation and that restitution was made. Either people moved or they were paid for, damages that they suffered, health issues, and if people lost their lives, and then their surviving offspring should be compensated. That's what happens in these.
That's what happens in a civilized country.
Yeah.
That's what happens in a country where people are first and foremost your priority and not money. And I dare say that that's not the Bahamas.
No.
So, in essence, there is no recourse because anyway, it is very disheartening for me to sit back and see people suffering, see the environment being destroyed in the manner that it could be destroyed with this invasive beetle, simply because people are putting money over everything and everyone else. That bottom line, it's all about the almighty dollar. Gentlemen, we're almost out of time. I just need your final thoughts. I'm going to give you each 30 seconds. Joe, let's start with you.
Well, I just want to thank and encourage you. Continue the great work, Michelle, and also the people who commented and called in. Please do whatever you can. Joe Darville can't do it alone. I get so many calls and so many people approach me in Grand Bahama. I'm only one person. And, fortunately, I work with some diligent people with Waterkeepers Bahamas and Save the Bays. And so we're doing as much as we can to inform our people, particularly young people, because they can persuade their parents, etc. So I want all of them, everybody out there, not just Joe Darville, and not just the people from Save the Bays or Waterkeepers Bahamas or from BNT, but all of us got a responsibility in this regard. A lady just came to me the other day and she said, Mr. Darville, I need you to come into one area where I live here in Freeport. She said, there are 10 cars parked on the side of my street, and no one is attending to, and they're leaking oil all on the ground. I said, what can I do? I said, talk to the environmental people. But I mean, Freeport is a dumping ground right now. And if you try to encourage people not to throw garbage on the side of the road, and they go 5 miles of center, and they see all these demolished cars along the road, where's your conviction to be able to convince them?
Yeah.
So please keep with the good work, and we'll be happy to be on whenever you need us.
Thank you so much, Joe. Eric? You're muted. You're muted. Okay.
Thank you for having me, Joe. Good to see you. Let's get to the bottom of this incident. Let's find out what's happened. If heads need to roll, let them roll. If people need to be fined, penalties, let them be fined. But let's hopefully the government will share the results of their investigation so that we as a people will know how this happened, and also be somewhat assured that this will not happen again in the future. Thank you for having me, Joe. Good to see you. Take care.
Thank you, gentlemen.
God bless.
You know, we like to point fingers very quickly at the government. Oh, the government is corrupt, and these politicians corrupt, but they are only a reflection of you. So if you don't have no problem taking some money under the table and sneaking this thing in the middle of the night, you are the problem, because they are only a reflection of you. And I want to encourage all of us as a people, you stop being corrupt. And then you could put pressure on them. But as long as we continue to just point fingers at them, but we don't have no problem being corrupt, we will never fix the problem. We got to get our act together, y'all. We only got one Bahamas. Only got one. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Got to get out of here. It's 1:01. I passed my time.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Tomorrow we have another great show planned for you, so please make sure to tune in tomorrow morning tomorrow's Wednesday, because yesterday was a holiday, so we'll have a really informative Wellness Wednesday show for you tomorrow. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good afternoon.